Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're putting on our historical detective hats and digging into the two massive foundational chapters of Aotearoa, New Zealand. You know, for a long time, the origins of this nation have been clouded by some pretty outdated assumptions. So we're going to move past the myths and reveal the absolutely fascinating evidence-based reality of its creation. To really understand this nation, we've got to look at a few key things: the planned mass migration, uncovering the hub of Wairu Bar, and tracing those early origins back to the Hawaii Zone. After that, we'll dive right into Te Tiritia Waitangi, explore some crucial differences in the treaty texts, and then look at what this framework means for the future.
Okay, part one, a planned mass migration.
So how was New Zealand actually settled? Let's go ahead and tackle our first massive myth, which is this idea that it was settled incredibly slowly by a small, accidental group of lost voyagers. For decades, the accepted academic story was all about very slow demographic expansion, starting maybe around 800 AD. The assumption was basically that a tiny group of people arrived, struggled, and very slowly adapted to the environment. But the latest archaeological and scientific evidence points to something radically different. And honestly, it's far more impressive.
When scientists started tightly dating the earliest human sites, they found literally no evidence of people before the early 1300s. But then, almost overnight in archaeological terms, 14th century colonization sites spread rapidly across 12,000 kilometers of coastline. That is all the way from the subtropical north down to the subantarctic waters of the far south. This instantly disproves that whole slow expansion theory. I mean, you simply cannot cover that much difficult terrain that quickly through accidental demographic drift.
So how many people did it actually take to pull this off? Well, instead of a few lost canoes, recent genetic data analyzing the mitochondrial DNA of modern populations tells us a different story. It reveals there had to be at least 190 founding females in the original group. Run the demographic models on that, and it means this was a highly planned, highly organized mass migration of, conservatively, 500 people. We're talking about a deliberate, massive undertaking here.
Moving on to Section 2, Uncovering Wairu Bar.
To see exactly how these early settlers established a viable nationwide colony with such incredible efficiency, we really have to look at Wairu Bar and its prime location on Cook Street. They absolutely didn't pick this spot at random. For people equipped with advanced double-hulled sailing vessels, this massive 11-hectare village served as the perfect 14th century hub for a national coastal voyaging network. It essentially gave them maximum access to the coastlines of both the North and South Islands.
And the excavations here have completely rewritten our understanding. They reveal just an incredible level of community wealth and scale. The site was bustling with high-quality adze manufacturing. They found the remains of giant extinct moa birds right alongside tropical shell tools, like a chisel made from Amygus crenulatus, which, by the way, does not grow in New Zealand. It was literally carried over from the tropical homeland. They even uncovered giant ritual oven pits containing the remains of dozens of individual moa eggs and 61 different animal species. That tells us massive, community-wide feasting events were happening here.
But actually scratch that. Here is the most staggering piece of evidence from Wairu Bar. When scientists analyzed the strontium and carbon isotope signatures in the teeth and bones of the earliest group buried there, they discovered something amazing. These individuals actually spent their childhoods back in the tropics. Their diet and the geology they grew up on perfectly matched a tropical environment. So Wairu Bar wasn't just a temporary camp. It was a deeply symbolic capital. It was a local reference point for a brand new colony, populated by people who directly remembered the homeland.
Which leads us perfectly into Section 3, Origins in the Hawaii Zone.
If these original settlers remembered their homeland, where exactly did they come from before making that epic 3,000-kilometer one-way journey? Well, through archaeological, linguistic, and biological evidence, experts have pinpointed what they call the Hawaii Hiki Zone. This area encompasses the Southern Cook, Austral, and Eastern Society Islands. And we need to be clear here, this wasn't a desperately poor place pushing people out. It was a wealthy region. Communities there already had deep ocean sailing capabilities and were linked by incredibly complex exchange networks and shared religious concepts.
And the sheer brilliance of these migrants is that they immediately replicated those homeland networks right in Aotearoa. They moved stone resources over vast distances across this new, massive landmass. Within just decades of arriving, they were distributing high-quality materials like Maya Island obsidian and Nelson argillite up to 2,000 kilometers away. They were absolutely masters of their environment from day one.
All right, Section 4, Tectonic Waitangi.
So the physical foundation of the nation was this swift, highly connected triumph of human exploration. Jumping forward roughly 500 years from the arrival of those original settlers, the Tangatawenua, we reach 1840 and the signing of the Treaty of Waitangi. And this is where we run into a second major myth that still persists today. It's the idea that the English and Maori versions of this foundational document say the exact same thing.
Let's get into Section 5, Crucial Treaty Differences.
Let's put our neutral historical detective hats back on and unpack the profound linguistic discrepancies by just looking right at the text. In Article I, Te Tiriti states that the Rangatirar, the chiefs, agree to the governor exercising Kawanatanga. This is a transliteration of governorship, which was meant to apply to the non-Maori living there in lawlessness. However, if you look at the English text, it claims the Rangatirar completely and absolutely cede their sovereignty to the Queen. That is a massive difference in foundational intent, right there.
Moving along to Article 2, the gap actually widens. The English version guarantees the chiefs full and undisturbed possession of their lands and properties. But Te Tiriti upholds Tino Rangatiratanga, which translates to paramount authority over their lands, villages, and their ta'anga. Now, ta'anga is a culturally deep word. It doesn't just mean real estate. It encompasses everything precious: their language, their unborn descendants, a clean environment, and even their health.
There's even an unwritten Article 4. During the first signing at Waitangi, a Catholic bishop named Pompallier asked a direct question about religious freedom. In response to that, a verbal agreement was made and read out to protect several faiths. Crucially, this specifically included Maori custom and religion, referred to as Ritenga. This vital protection of Maori spiritual practice simply does not appear anywhere in the Crown's English document.
Finally, Section 6, Framework for the Future.
Recognizing these fundamental text differences isn't just some academic exercise in rewriting the past. It's absolutely crucial for neutrally understanding the living framework of the nation today. When you summarize the gap, you see a stark contrast. The English document focuses heavily on ceding absolute power to the Crown and simply securing physical property. Meanwhile, Te Tiriti o Waitangi confirms ongoing Maori paramount authority and establishes a framework for a shared mutual relationship between Tangatawenua and the Crown. Throughout this explainer, we've shattered the long-held myth of a slow, accidental migration, replacing it with the awe-inspiring reality of a planned mass Polynesian settlement. And we've looked neutrally at the myth of a perfectly aligned political treaty, revealing the deep linguistic divide between Te Tiriti and the English text. So, I'll leave you with this to ponder. What happens when a modern nation continues to build its future on these incredibly complex dual foundations? How do we reconcile the realities of the past with the shape of tomorrow? Thanks for joining me on this deep dive. Keep asking questions and keep exploring.